Hey everybody, Davey here from Davey's World Fishing. I'm over here at AFTCO in Santa Ana, California, ready for a CCA California podcast. Never been to AFTCO, I'm kind of excited to check it out. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the CCA California podcast. My name is Chris, alongside my good friend Mr. Kevin Nakata. Kevin, we have a bonus episode this week.
I know we haven't left yet, so we're still here in our traveling studio.
Yeah.
At AFTCO's headquarters.
Exactly. Well, this week we are joined by two very great friends of ours, and we're going to be talking some bass fishing and coastal social. But first off, as always, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Make sure to like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram at CCA California. Without further ado, we have Mr. Davey Brown from Okuma, and we also have Matt Florentino from AFTCO. Guys, what's going on?
What's happening?
Que pasa?
Que pasa? How's it going, guys? What anything new since we last chatted? I know we've all kind of hung out together the last couple weeks.
All kinds of new stuff. The world's opening up a little bit. Fish are biting. Sun's out.
Yeah, spring's here.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Spring has slightly sprung. I'll say slightly because it's slightly sprung. It's here one day and then gone the next, depending on wind and whatever else that Mother Nature will throw at us. But things are looking good, and there's some biting fish. So
I was just about to say, it seems more and more like a typical Southern California spring, don't you think?
yeah, I mean, we were out recently and we had like 60-degree water. Some small barracuda, some bass, and kind of the traditional sort of deals going on. So
Lots of bait, too.
there is a ton of fin bait.
Ranging anywhere from sardines, anchovies, I mean, the list goes on.
I was about to say there's a good mix. This is just the northern part of the Santa Monica Bay and around Long Beach. There's a ton of fin bait of all sorts and sizes out there.
There's been a little squid at the island every once in a while.
Oh, yeah?
That as well too. Yeah.
For sure. Well, let's get into a little bit of background. Davey, you've been on the podcast before. Long time ago, it seems like. Seems like a couple months at least.
Seems
Before,
like a long time ago.
Before the Kevin days. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, let's see. I've been with Okuma here for 15 years. I'm on the marketing team there. I started on the sales side as one of the sales managers. I did that for the first 8 years. I've been one of the marketing managers for the last 7. Grew up in Long Beach, California, born and raised. I started pinheading out on the Annie B barge out there off of Belmont Pier when I was about 7, I guess. My dad and I would go out every weekend. So I'd be out there filleting tomcod for about 5 to 10 cents a fish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, crazy. So grew up fishing Long Beach a lot. Spent a lot of time on the boats. Started kayak fishing real early. Kevin wasn't even born yet. I think about 1990-ish I got my first kayak. I spent a lot of time in that.
I was just born.
Yeah, exactly. So Kevin was 1. So a lot of time out on the kayak, anywhere in Southern California, up and down the coast, up in the local mountains. My dad retired up in Big Bear, so I spent a lot of time on the kayak up there fishing for rainbow trout. I spent a lot of time down in San Diego fishing the old tournaments and the old Plastic Navy series that we used to have, which was a lot of fun. Other than that, man, just anywhere in the water. I was out in Springfield, Missouri a couple weeks back for the big Bass Pro Shop World's Fishing Fair. I was ice fishing a couple weeks before that. I'll be down in Louisiana here in 2 weeks. But for Okuma, I get out quite a bit and get out around the country. And anywhere you can find some water, you can generally find me.
Nice. How's the Bass Pro event?
It was interesting. We had from tornadoes and flooding to snow. So it was tornadoes, then it was flooding, then it was snow, then it was 60 degrees and sunny.
So all of the above.
All of the above. Some of the booths were completely flooded out. They had to come squeegee the booths every day. AFTCO had the booth right behind us, and it was...
Was this indoor or outdoor?
This was outdoor.
In the tornadoes.
Outdoor, under a giant tent, but on a parking lot. So where our booth was, we were a little bit of elevation, so we actually stayed dry the whole time. But right down from us, water was funneling into the booths. Like the Daiwa booth was not too far from us, and if you had carpet and padding, it was like a giant sponge. It was ridiculous out there.
Oh my!
And cold. It was so freaking cold. I had to go in and actually buy long underwear in the shop. We weren't prered for anything like that. It was nuts.
Were you there too, Matt?
I was not at the World
you
Fishing
missed out.
Fair, but I heard more than enough of as far as what went down with the weather. But and most interestingly enough, that crowd in and around Missouri, they showed out. Just shows how
hardcore.
Again,
dedicated.
a little bit of a Southern California filter. Anytime I see any little bit of weather, I'm like, oh gosh, storm watch 2023.
Yeah.
But as far as other parts of the world and country, that didn't defer them in any way.
They still had their flip flops on in the flood and Crocs squirting water everywhere. It was interesting to see.
Sweet.
We were downhill, like you mentioned, from that, and I heard more than enough as far as what we had going on in the booth. But we made do. We figured it out.
Apparently, camouflage and overalls are water resistant because everybody had them on walking around. It was interesting to see.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. Well, Matt. Oh, Matt, so you work at AFTCO. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to be here at AFTCO, 9 years, so it'll be 10 next year. My role here, I'm the marketing director at AFTCO. Oversee pretty much our marketing efforts, brand efforts, as well as e-commerce. Really, my background for what I do here was with digital e-commerce. So I kind of came in, thankfully, as far as when I was going to school and in college and all those sorts of things. And this is 2002 or so. There was a new program called Digital Marketing E-commerce. I was like, that sounds interesting. I like the internet. So I went to Cal Poly Pomona, got a degree in digital e-com. Thankfully, I was able to result with a job here at AFTCO. This isn't my first soiree into e-com or marketing. I used to work for a sporting good retailer. That was probably here in Southern California, so that's kind of where I got my start. Learned a lot there, and then fortunate when Casey Shedd reached out to me, way back when, that they're looking to build, websites and build a digital presence. That's when I kind of hopped in. And it's been a fun ride since then. Now we have a team. It was me and Casey when we first got going, and now we have a team. We were talking about this, about a team of 12 or so.
Wow.
With 2 offices, one here in Santa Ana, California, and another in Charleston, South Carolina. So it's a fun gig. Get to, work with something I love. I grew up fishing, grew up around the water.
Calico fishing.
Calico fishing. Really, it was just when I grew up, it was just saltwater fishing.
Right.
So I grew up in the South Bay. Grew up in Carson, California. So for me, my dad was a big influence, a heavy influence, as far as sport fishing goes. So I think
Captain Benny Florentino.
Yes, Captain Ben Florentino, Coastal Charters, big plug for him. But really, he's the one who helped instill that with me at an early age. My oldest is 9, I think. I was 6 or 7 or so. Started with, because my dad liked to surf, so everything we did as far as outdoors goes started with the beach. And the first thing we started doing was surf fishing, sand crabs, Carolina rig, you name it, we tried to catch it initially, which then progressed to the barge out in Redondo, Isle of Redondo. There was many days I remember just hopping on, jumping off thing, running around, as a wild style 8-year-old, just around the barge, just buck wild, basically as daycare when my dad got the fish, which then progressed to half-day boats, and then progressed to 3/4 days, twilights, overnight, you name it. It all started with the sport boats until things progressed further. And if you know my dad, you know him and his skiffs that he's had throughout the years. So he got a 17-foot aqua sport, if I'm not mistaken. Sea squirt.
That was his first boat?
That was his first boat.
Wow.
Well, 17-foot sea squirt, and he took that thing everywhere. We predominantly focused on Palos Verdes. Again, being from South Bay, we would predominantly launch out of Cabrillo, focused around PV and the Santa Monica Bay. It's mainly because what we knew, fishing sport boats. He was early on with artificials, the Worm King days. Really, first was from the sport boat. He then took that into the private boats. But yeah, one of my first few experiences in tournament fishing, I think it's 98 or 97. I think I would have been like 13 or so, fishing the Western Outdoor News jackpot events. I think that was his first tournament too, so we kind of fished it together in a kind of interesting fashion. And I think we got, I want to say, I don't remember the stats, my dad will have to correct me on this, I want to say we were like 12th or 13th or something like that, so he was psyched, I was psyched, and we're going up against the big name guys, the Benny Seacrest of the world, the Greg Stotzbergs of the world,
really?
the Dave Pfeiffers of the world, Dave Dodge, a number of other like really classic names if you're familiar with the fishing industry, and especially in that stage in the early 90s, that event was ginormous. So I know I was just a little grom with my eyes wide open, and just we were just charging full force. But yeah, that's kind of where I got my start. And
fully ingrained in the fishing industry. Holy smokes!
Early on, yeah, but it did take a back seat as I got older. That's throughout my teenage years. Yeah, when my dad asked me to fish, at a certain point, I was like, "Sorry, Dad, I'm gonna go skate. I'm gonna go out with my friends. I'm gonna go party and do whatever traditional teenage kid would do in the late '90s or so." And I was all about skating for a long time, until I think maybe college or so. I've always, not that I stopped fishing, but I just, it was very recreational at that point. But I kind of circled back in my college years, really out of curiosity, out of boredom, going to school in Pomona. I was just trying to find something to do, and all my skate friends weren't really around, so yeah.
Speaking of skating, did you see that Tony Hawk documentary that's out right now?
I have not,
Oh, that's awesome.
but I need to check it out.
Kind of brought back so many flashbacks.
Well, we have a couple of great guests this week. They're talking specifically about an upcoming event that's coming to a Long Beach harbor nearest us.
Absolutely. So, Matt, you and I last year embarked on this tournament series called Coastal Social.
Yes.
And personally, it's been an absolute blast putting it on with you and putting it on with so many other people. Do you want to kind of give us the history on how it kind of came to fruition?
Yeah, there was this thing called the pandemic that happened. I was, I was thankfully with having the amount of time to spend at home, really kind of be in my own head, so to speak. I think a lot of us were just trying to figure out what was going on in the world. Had some extra free time and just try to find some new ways, to get the community involved, get anglers involved. I was very well aware, thankfully, working here at AFTCO as far as what the folks at CCA, both national and California, were doing behind the scenes and how much of an impact that they're making. So just trying to think, as far as creatively, as far as what I knew, and like I mentioned, tournament bass fishing in saltwater, that's really where my bread and butter is, or kind of a lot of where my passion and my heart's at, ultimately. So just trying to find ways to activate that, both private boat community and also a growing kayak community, to get involved, in the sake of competition with the tournament. That was all for fun and all really just to get a big group of folks with shared interest involved, and also just giving back to CCA California in a big way. So it was a kind of initial flash in the pan idea, and reached out to Chris. He said, "Yeah, if we could figure this all out, let's go for it." So we did. I created the name, created the logo, whipped up some T-shirts, put together the registration site, and we kind of just I look back to, I don't know how exactly we were able to accomplish all that in a relatively short period of time, but we were able to, thankfully, and thanks for the support too of the community. We were able to put a kickoff event last year, and 22nd Street was more than generous to help host us at that event for the weigh-ins, and yeah, that was the initial year. And fast forward to today, and it's 2022, and it's the second year of the event.
I swear, I think it must have been less than 6 months when we just made it all happen. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I honestly was looking back, and as creepy as Facebook is, you get these memory things, and it's like what you were doing last year. I was like, holy moly, we were just doing the kickoff event, which seemed like such a long time ago, but yeah, it was only last year.
For sure. Davey, one of the reasons why why we have you involved this year is because you're going to be serving as the weighmaster for this year.
Wait, what? I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. I got to fish the event last year. Actually, I got to paddle around a lot last year. Fishing was tough. I whacked them the week before, whacked them the week after, but that day the wind blew, and sitting on a piece of plastic in super windy, gusty conditions was not pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a tournament day.
Yeah, exactly. Typical tournament day. From where I launched at, I was about, so I launched in Cabrillo, and I went all the way out around Angel's Gate there, and went way up the wall, then way back down the wall. And getting back took me almost 2 hours in the wind, head into the wind, which was ridiculous. And it's not that long of a kick. But yeah, fishing was tough. I got a couple short bites, and that was it for the day. But like I said, the week before, crushed them. The week after, crushed them. Yeah, typical event day. But yeah, so I had such a great time. It was fun sitting at the weigh-in last year. We gave out all the great swag and goodie bags, and looking forward to do it again this year.
Are you also doing the Kayak Division judging as well?
I am, yeah. We're doing the Kayak Division, and I do take bribes, as we were talking about last week. I'll be fishing it as well as doing the judging for it, so it should be fun.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the 2022 edition as well. You know, Davey, I think, you know, you grew up in Long Beach and all that, so you have very much, I guess, homegrown experience fishing the Long Beach area.
Yeah, I do. I fished that wall for as long as I can remember. From all of my friends as we were young, we used to have a little Zodiac, and we'd run out there at night. Of course, nighttime is the right time on that wall.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a blast out there. But I fished that for a really long time. It's slacked a lot over the last several years, just as we all get busy with family and everything else. But we sneak out whenever we can. We still go fish that night bite. But I do have some good spots on that wall. That center wall is always great, all the way down to the bend, and then just kind of start over and keep working that. Inside, outside doesn't even matter on that wall, but it's good. That artificial bite's fun. You get big bait, big fish, small bait, big fish. It doesn't even matter on that thing. It's great. Big, deep crankbaits. I mean, you can get bit so many different ways on there. Except for when that kelp's thick and it sucks.
So, Matt, you and I and your dad actually had the great, I had the great opportunity to fish with you and your dad a couple weeks ago, fishing the wall with a crankbait for the first time. My arms are still feeling that one, by the way.
When I was telling you it's crankbait cardio, I was not lying.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you fish with us, you realize, holy crap, these guys make a lot of casts, and yeah, we kind of don't stop, more or less. But
I like
yeah,
it.
that cranking thing, it can be a deal if they're there. And Davey mentioned it, that wall, that's exactly what we did. Coming out of, we came out of Alamitas, we had some fog, so instead of just, you know, we have radar and everything, but just to kind of just be a little precautious, so let's just spot check the wall, which when we say the wall, we usually mean, you know, the break wall outside of Long Beach, San Pedro. So we did our standard deal, went up through Angel's Gate, ran up towards that gap there. We kind of started short in and around just shy of the bend. There's some shallower rocking around there, and knowing on a low tide with the deep down crankbait, you could really get in, crag those things in a good way. Had a lot of water movement though. Yeah, good.
Specifically Calicos or Sandies or both?
It's a little bit of both. Really, we'll kind of get in where we fit in on the wall, but we're pretty much targeting bass of any capacity. Calicos are there, obviously. The sandies typically are there too. It depends on if they're up tight or if they're off the wall a little bit or what have you. But yeah, we had a nice little, I would say, pre-workout with that first stop as far as what you got yourself into for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, we started there and then proceeded to move on up and around Palos Verdes and then Santa Monica Bay.
Yeah, it was super fun. Kevin, do you ever fish up in Long Beach that often?
I'm gonna start fishing it more, but I'm definitely fishing the coastal social. So you know,
Okay.
I'm gonna be on the kayak. I'm gonna be trying my hand at the wall. I'm just gonna go into it blind. I really am. It's gonna be my first time fishing the wall. I'd like to keep it that way, to be honest with you.
Interesting. Okay. So, Davey, with you having the experience against the wall and Long Beach in general, do you have any advice for our anglers that are trying to participate or want to participate? And you know, what kind of advice would you give them?
Don't let Kevin hear this, but actually going to fish that wall blind, it's actually an easy place to fish. You really don't have to pre-fish it. You just got to get to it. When you're looking at that wall, you're going to see a couple different configurations. You're going to see just the big square blocks, which just look like a solid wall that drops straight down. And then you're going to see the big, craggly, giant boulder portions of those rocks. Those big home guard calicos, they like to sit back deep in those deep, big boulder rocks. So if you can start working that area of the walls, that's where you're going to get a lot of your bigger fish. You know, just go do it. Just get in there. Like I mentioned, it sucks when the kelp is thick, but the kelp is awesome as well. You can drop down those stringers and get down towards those deeper areas, and those fish are going to bite.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say I love when actually people are put off by the kelp on the wall, because that eliminates. When I see kelp, this is another little sneaky deal, but from fishing tournaments and things, knowing the fact that guys don't like dealing with kelp, I'll actually go to where there's thick kelp and then target that stuff. I'll punch it freshwater style. I'll fish a weedless on the edges. I'll fish a big, heavy 1.5 ounce, 2 ounce jig, just going straight through the stuff. You definitely have to fish heavy, just because you're dealing with kelp, you're dealing with rock, and you're dealing with potential of a double-digit calico bass that we all know lives on the wall. Or you target those things parallel in a nice long parallel cast with a big swim bait or some other type of A-rig, crankbait, you name, pick your poison. You can be fairly efficient depending on that. So.
And that Calico's a lot more friendly, or sorry, the kelp is a lot more friendly fishing from a boat, obviously.
Yeah.
When the kayak, if you do get snagged up, as soon as you start reeling and you're pulling yourself towards it,
You're
it's
in
a
there.
little more difficult. Yeah, that kelp is awesome. It's thick, it's fun. Same thing, punching, drop it down, get it down deep. Just like working in, like you're down at Cedros. I know you've been to Cedros, Chris, but working that thick kelp and just dropping and potholing down through there, it's awesome. It's such a good bite.
That's cool. So we talked about fishing the crankbait. Davey, what do you like to fish?
On the wall or anywhere?
Anywhere.
I love fishing the Alabama rig. I've been fishing the A-rig for a long time. Like he was just talking about fishing parallel. So if you do find that kelp, throw that A-rig, go ahead and meter it, figure out how deep the lower level of that kelp is, but just work along that top of that. Let it bounce along it. If you have any weedless baits that you want to set up on that A-rig, just let it kind of fall through that kelp. Just work it back out.
Bouncing along an A-rig doesn't sound like a very budget-friendly technique.
It can be an expensive days. That's actually one of the trips where you want to go hit Amazon and hit some of those $5 A-rigs because you do go through a bunch. Same with crankbaits. I fish a lot of deep diving crankbaits, and you're going to get snagged up a lot. You're going to go through some baits. It's an expensive day, but the payoff can be so great. Especially in a tournament time. This isn't a big money tournament. It's a fun tournament. Of course, we're going to try to take some bragging rights home, but it's worthwhile putting some baits out there. Especially fishing at night. Night. We're talking about nighttime. This tournament's not at night, obviously, but you're going to even go through more baits at night.
Oh yeah, because you're probably losing a lot of visual understanding of how fast you're moving down the walls,
Exactly.
drifting, and all that stuff. So if you're not paying attention with your feel and your sensitivity on your reel and your rod, you're probably going to get hosed, is the word.
Nighttime's funny. I'm sure Matt's had the experience too, but as you're casting towards that wall, a lot of times on that night bite, those bass bite as soon as that bait's the water.
Really?
You don't have to work it down the wall. It's almost splash, boom, there it is.
Wow.
It's pretty
Because they're
incredible.
that tight.
They're just there and they're ready. They're hungry.
Interesting. So, what do you think? What fish and do you think it's going to be a combo of calicos? Do you think sand bass is going to be the way to go for this tournament? What do you think is going to be the way to go for the winner?
That was actually a point I was going to mention is, we're talking about the wall, but there's so many other options, even from the kayak perspective. Jim Salazar won last year. Me and Jim both launched out of the same marina, which, you guys are talking out at Carrillo, out of Long Beach. Doing part with the event, you really can launch from anywhere possible, so to speak. I kind of kept it close as far as what I know. I launched out of King Harbor. Jimmy did the same. Jimmy won with some deep water sand bass. So, and if I was going to pick somebody as far as who I haven't talked to Jimmy, but I hope he's fishing it, I would probably expect Jimmy to kick some butt per usual because he's got his little deal dialed. So I would say a good mix of the two, whether you're fishing artificial reefs or some deeper stones, or it's stuff off of riprap, break walls, what have you, or if you're fishing around, I know some of the anglers fish around Palos Verdes and the kelp lines and things, or some of the boilers up there. You have a couple options. I would say do your homework too. If you're able to. If you can't get on the water, at least you could do is just check what some of the conditions may be and what some options as far as fishing locations may be for the event. So.
And for a point of reference, I'm looking up the totals from last year. Jimmy Salazar, 51.25 inches in the weigh-in.
I was just short of that with a 0.
We see you down there.
Yeah.
So what's the cumulative amount of fish you can get on the kayak side?
So it's 3 fish, just like so the way this event will work out, we kept it pretty loose and fairly fun. So there's on the boat side is 3 anglers, 3 fish bag, and on the kayak side it's 3 fish a limit. So your three longest fish.
And the catch, photo, release side of the tournament is on kayak only. Is it a weigh-in tournament on the boat side?
Kayak only. Yeah, on the kayak side, it's a catch, measure, release. We're utilizing the Tourney X platform for the event, and then on the boater side, it's a traditional live weigh-in with release after, and that's for 3 fish.
And where's the location for the weigh-in?
That'll be right, just like last year. It'll be at 22nd Street Landing, right down there on the big main gangway.
And the kayak guys are welcome there too?
Totally
Absolutely.
welcome. Yeah, so I know I came by after, Jimmy came by after as well. So if you're able to come to the event, the weigh-in, highly encouraged to. we'll all be hanging out there.
Some
obviously.
awesome swag bags you got to pick up too.
I was just
Exactly.
about to say, we've got some excellent swag bags, starting with you, Davey. I know. Well, I'll let you tell them. What are we getting for participating in the Coastal Social?
There's gonna be a lot of awesome stuff on the Fish Lab side. We're gonna give out some baits to everybody. So every bag's gonna have a package of baits. On the soft steel side, we're gonna give out some fluorocarbon or some mono. Haven't totally decided yet on that, but yeah, there's gonna be some great stuff. Lots of stickers. I know AFTCO's kicking in. Who else did you have?
ProMarge actually just picked up a couple of their things, so they're gonna kick in. I know.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff.
More to come.
Yeah, more to come.
More to
Exactly.
come.
What about the? What do you have to do to get involved with the tournament? Do you have to register? Do you have to? Like the kayak side, it sounds like you have to register on TourneyX as well.
Yeah, so just, I guess from top to bottom, first thing to do is just navigate to the coastalsocial.org website. From there, you can register for either the boaters or the kayak side. If you're a boater, it's pretty simple. You just register there, register your team. So it's whether it's 1, 2, 3 anglers. Make sure you have everything listed there. And depending on how big your team is, if you're a current CCA member, it's $50 per person. And then if you're not a CCA member, it's $85, and we just tack on the CCA membership. So if you're a kayaker, here's another secondary step. So do as I just mentioned with the registration on the website. Just make sure you select kayak, and then from there you're going to need to, if you don't already have a TourneyX app or your profile created, make sure you download the TourneyX app and then create your profile. And then from there, just search, I believe it's CCA Cal, and then the tournament should pop up. And from there, you can register on that side. You will need a password to register on the TourneyX side. That will be provided to you post-registration on the Coastal Social website.
I did hear that if you're already a member, when you come by and get your bag, you're also going to get either some knuckles or a high five.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's kinda
Guaranteed.
cool, yeah.
Yeah,
Guaranteed.
for sure.
You-
For sure.
And you also need a measuring device for the kayak side.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, on the kayak side, due in part with it being a catch, measure, release tournament, you will need a measuring device. We've had a few questions already as far as if we have a
Brand preference or something.
brand preference, and just to make things easy for folks, we made it pretty open ended. So whether my personal measuring board of choice, whether it's for the event or anybody personally, the catch boards are really nice. I have one of those myself. I think I have the one that goes up to 32, just in case I catch say a legal sea bass or what have you.
30-inch Calico. One day.
I'm pretty sure they're out there.
Yeah.
Try to find one. So yeah, make sure you have your board. And another just fine detail is just if possible, get yourself oriented as far as what you're going to need to do to measure the fish, and also take a photo of the fish. It's a lot easier said than done if you've never done it before. So I usually, if I catch a fish, depending on where I'm fishing, I try to get into a safe spot. I'll make sure I have all my measuring equipment available, get everything out, get the board in a nice safe spot. A little fine details, I put my net off to the side underneath the board in case the fish decides to flop around. I then get my phone ready. I recommend it, it's not required, but if you have some sort of lanyard or some other means so you don't drop your phone in the water, because it happens.
Wait, we know a guy.
Kevin, did it happen? Or
I
does
don't
it
know what you're
happen?
talking about.
So knowing that that's again, and I treat like tournaments in a way, like try to control all the variables you can, because it's the fish and the weather, things you can't. So just get comfortable doing that, and also comfortable just making sure that you have the fish's mouth up against the measuring device, and you have a good clear picture from end to end as far as the length of the fish.
Just to be clear, though, it's got to be a rigid measuring device, not a
Not a
measuring
tape.
tape
Correct,
or one of
yes.
the vinyl boards.
Yeah, so yeah, I mentioned the catch board. There's also
Trough.
hog trough is another, and
And there's a bunch. Rapala. There's just as long as we can see the numbers as being the person that's going to judge it. A lot of tournaments they actually suggest taking a Sharpie and coloring in the numbers. Make sure they're nice and dark. I mean, for Chris, you only have to darken up to about 14. The rest of us, we got to go at least 20, 28, 30.
Dang, man, some shade being thrown here.
Oh,
But yeah, rigid device is the key
yes.
there.
And another fine detail, cradle style. So I've had a couple guys actually ask. They have their bump boards, like the metal bump boards that come on some bass boats, what have you. I would be impressed if you're able to actually have a fish lay on that carefully. Or
You're talking like a golden rule?
yes,
Okay.
just and again, because the questions that came about, it's you want a nice, good, wide kayak style cradle measuring device, like Dave mentioned.
And the details on how to properly measure the fish, submit your catch, is that all on coastalsocial.com?
Yes.
.org?
.org.
.org.
The information's there. There is no visual representation of what that exactly looks like, for an example's sake. But I think we can probably throw something in there if we needed to.
Yeah, some photos for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all. It is very detailed, though, right? There is a proper way to submit a catch, or else you're gonna get minus points or nothing. Not a submission at all if you don't do it properly, right?
Yeah. So you want to make sure you do measure correctly, and with the tournament committee, we get every submission. For it to be count as a catch, every submission will get looked at, will get verified, as far as making sure the nose is properly up to the board and all those other fine details. Or if a measurement is overly stated, we'll just go in there and adjust as need be.
But if you understate it, it's going to stay understated. That lower number. We're happen to be running a tournament with Fish Lab right now, and there's quite a few people that are actually submitting their catch short. So it might be like a 16 3/4, but it's actually measuring at 17 1/2 or something, and that's what they put in. That's what they're
Wow.
standing.
Yeah.
I won't go in and adjust up for them, but
Right.
just be smart. If
Yeah.
you do go over though, we'll definitely knock you down.
Yeah.
As the weighmaster, can you give someone a good reference point as to what you're looking for, as far as mouth being closed, belly facing towards you? Just a brief one. I know it's a very detailed.
Yeah, that's always
list.
good. So like most of these tournaments, they want you to have your mouth closed, because if you do open, it can stretch the fish out a little bit. Sometimes if you're pulling fish from deep, it's hard to keep that mouth closed. And when you put your hand over the bump board, when you're actually holding it down, you don't want to cover the eyes, you don't want to cover the mouth, you don't want to cover the gill.
No hand in the gills.
No hand in the gills.
Yeah.
You don't want to see a big bloody fish. This one, I don't know if there's a pinch tail. Is there a pinching tail rule that you guys know of? I don't think. I think like, a lot of times you can pinch the tail, and if we can see that it's actually touching the 16 or 17 or whatever else, that we'll let that happen. If it's an IGFA type of tournament, they actually go through the middle of the tail, so it's like the innermost, shortest section of the tail. But so with this one, yeah, you can pinch the tail and get a little bit more length out of it.
Cool. Well, so speaking of species for the tournament, it's all saltwater bass, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So whether that's calico bass, kelp bass, barred sand bass, or spotted bay bass, all three count. So yeah, pick your poison. All three. Doesn't need to be one or the other. Any mix of all or what have you, all valid fish.
Do you think spotties could actually bring up a decent limit?
If somebody was struggling outside and has some stuff situated or dialed inside for spotted bay bass and they need a keeper, I mean, heck yeah. If somebody had two decent fish and they're just trying to scratch out a third, I know for a fact, and I'm going to be fishing on the kayak side for this first event. I'm going to be fishing in King Harbor, and if I'm struggling on the outside and I have some time, I'm probably going to be looking around into my little spotty, sneaky zones in King Harbor, which most of those fish in there aren't large, but if you do catch a good one, they're usually really good.
I mean, what were the totals? It was it's top three fishermen, right? So you had Jim, who had 53 inches, and then wasn't it a pretty big gap for second and third?
So second place was you, Matt, at 44.5. Jim was 51.25, and then third place was Diego Gambo at 15.25.
So and that's one fish, right? So you're talking
Yeah.
about going to pitch some spotties on those docks and work some of those areas. If you get two spotties, you're at 30 inches.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you're right in there. And
And
what's
yeah.
the minimum length on this? It's
14.
14.
Yeah. And last year fishing was relatively tough, so to speak, I would say. And again, I was fishing on the northern side of the peninsula. I will say, and this is just my it was tournament day, and what happened, what didn't happen. I had a limit pretty quick in the first 30 minutes, which ended up being my 3 fish that I think I scored 3 or 4 fish or what have you. And then I lost, I don't know how many fish up in Palos Verdes, and they were just doing backflips over the glide bait, and I could not get a single one to stick.
Excuses.
Bro, tournament fishing, I'll tell you, like, what actually happens and doesn't happen is just like, and I saw
Yeah.
Jimmy's numbers, like, dang it. I was like, these are like 3-4 pound calico bass, just like, jumping on top of each other over a glide bait and surface iron and just not sticking.
And if I remember correctly, Jimmy even had enough time to go catch some rockeye too.
Dude, so yeah, and so
Salt in the wound.
so I pull in and we're unpacking and I got done early because I meet you all at 22nd Street, and of course Jimmy pulls up. I was like, "You done already, Jim?" He's like, "Oh yeah, look at this red I got." I'm like, "Hang on, you fishing the tournament or are you fishing?" He's like, "Oh, he was somewhere down there, 100. I don't. He had like a nice 10-pound red,
Yeah.
kind of like 120 feet of water. See, I don't know what he's doing 120 feet of water, but he's a stud." I'm like, "Yeah, he is."
His big fish last year was 18 and a half inches.
That's
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's a pretty good. It was sand bass.
Sand bass.
Yeah, that's a pretty good fish. So what was his average if he's 51? It's like a little bit under 16. Is that right, or something like that?
Yeah, he had 3 nice solid fish.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
17-inch average, right?
17-inch average. That's kick butt, man.
And and Jimmy, I think he had the Bixby because I saw him
Oh yeah.
get out of there and come in really fast. Like, dang! I was like,
And motors are open
They are
in
open,
kayaks, so
100%.
you can go out there. Trolling is not, though,
No,
right?
no.
Yes. What about long lining?
long lining. I mean, if you're fishing in a sporting manner, I have no problem long line personally. I mean, if there's a long drift and you're trying to get your bait in the right zone, if that requires a long line, I know that's really prevalent, say out in San Diego Bay and some of the deeper channel cuts and what have you. I don't. Yeah, that's fair game in my eyes.
Okie dokie.
Very cool. Well, so for the let's go over some of the finer details of Coastal Social. So we are doing a lines in, lines out, start and finish. That time is going to be lines in at 6 and lines out at 2. And you've got to weigh in your fish or submit it through the Cernex app by 3 p.m. Will
Yes.
that sound right?
Yes, and some other finer, like fine details with that as far as strategy goes, because this is a little bit different than some of the other tournament series out there. Lines in means you can be at your spot, ready to fish at that time. You don't need to start, your day off as far as leaving port, what have you. So, and just because this is what some of the teams did last year, if you wanted to run, if you're a boater, and run to Catalina, run to Santa Barbara Island, run to San Clemente Island, run to anywhere you want to fish, you can do so. The only stipulation with that is lines in at 6. And the only other stipulation is that you need to be at the weigh-in by, weigh-in opens at 2, the scales will be closed at 3. Anything after then, you'll basically be late. So
Gas is expensive. I don't know how many people are going to Clemente this year.
you knowing some of the bass guys who are personal friends, and we're all we're psychotic enough that we drive 62 miles to go catch a fish that doesn't get bigger than say 8 pounds.
That you're not even keeping.
They're trying to keeping in a bay boat in a center console. That's absolutely insane.
Right.
But so I would expect there'd be a few teams that'll make the run. I know for me it'd be an excuse to go fish the islands for a day for fun. So. And hopefully gas prices loosen up, but I don't think they will anytime soon. But
And a lot of guys did that too. A lot of the winning teams
yeah,
made the run.
on the boater side, the top teams did run a Clemente, which that's a gamble. Like you need to run out there, you need to catch your fish, and you need to be done really early to have enough to give yourself enough time to make it back in time. Which we're not going into say Huntington Harbor or Alamitos. You still need to hike up near Angel's Gate and get a 22nd Street landing. So there is some planning and strategy, and you need to catch them. Like you can go to the island, and it might not bite. Which if you fish that island, sometimes the morning doesn't bite, and it's usually an late afternoon deal. And guess what? That's when the weigh-in is. So you do need to, if you're going to make that choice, it might be a very expensive boat ride, but you could also have a high chance of catching them too. So
Yeah, if you don't catch him, you might find a foamer on the way back.
that's the
Man.
yeah. And if you're late, I totally understand.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a solid excuse for sure for being late. Davey, any advice? I'm sorry, we already went over the device, but any predictions for this year's tournament? Anything that you'd like to see or
I'd like to catch a fish this year.
Yeah.
That would be something different from last year. That's prediction-wise. It's been good. The water's warming up. We're kind of coming out of an interesting early spring. Let's hope those fish bite. There's going to be a lot of guys fishing that PV area, and that could bite really well. There's some monster fish up there as well. I know Benny, of course, he's got some of these big lanes that he's fishing. There's some great kelp area up there right now. It could be really good. But let's see if it was. What was the boater weights last year?
So
It's like 16 something.
So the winning team was Team Reyes, and that was 17 and a half.
7.5 pounds. Yeah, we could be pretty close to that, if not more, this year. Get 18 pounds. You're looking at an average of 6-pound fish. That's great. That's solid.
Is it 3 weight fish or is it 5?
Three weight fish.
3 weight
so-
fish? Okay.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
bag limit's 3
That's
on
pretty
both sides.
big. That's a pretty big bag, man.
They
That's almost 6 pounds last
Yeah,
year.
they basically had like 3 5-6 pounders more or less.
Yeah.
Sand
on the
bass or
bag.
calicos?
Calicos, yeah.
Mm.
A lot of sand bass too.
Yeah, I would say for my prediction, I'm gonna I would suspect that 1 or 2 big fish will get caught.
8
And
pounders.
They're not gonna come from the island. They're gonna either come local, whether it's somebody milling around Palos Verdes or in around the break wall or any of the other break walls that are in the vicinity. There are more walls than the wall. It's traditionally, it's the bigger fish locally get caught in and around that time period. The tournament dates were set up kind of by design with that little nugget in place. And the way things are shaping up, Jerry just wrapped up his most recent Marina Del Rey event a week or 2 ago. There was like a 9+ pounder caught by Tom Hansdeuce and Tom and Val, and there was a number of other nice fish that were caught. So that was, and that was a week after we fished. Actually, the weekend after we fished. I didn't think it was going to bite all that good, but there were some pretty good weights and some good fish caught, and that was all local. So
Interesting. Kevin, what about you, man?
My prediction?
Yeah.
You're asking the wrong guy. My prediction is I'm going to win it. That's my prediction. I'm going to take down Matt.
dude, what I was actually going to say is that I would not be surprised if I saw Nakata's name up there, and it would
Yeah.
just be a nice gut punch. The fact that 1, he's never rather fished the wall, or 2, this isn't his backyard.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to figure something out for San Diego if that's the case.
I've been polishing off a little bit of my bay bass forte. I've been getting up there, and I definitely think that sand bass is going to be a very interesting play on this tournament because there's a lot of people that know about some good sand bass drifting areas. Not drifting, but like long lining areas and stuff like that. Big baits. A lot of people come to this event. I'm sure they don't throw. You throw probably a bigger bait than what most people would, but I'm throwing big baits too.
Yeah.
So
I'll say on that sand bass topic really quick, there are some rock wizards in around the Long Beach, Orange County area that fish the tournament scenes. I was never one of them. I was pretty much a structure, shallow water, Calico guy, but there are some straight up wizards that fish out there, and they know every nook and cranny, on that shelf. And if they hit the right one, they're gonna catch them, and it's gonna be a 3-fish limit of 6 to 8 pound sand bass. That stuff
that's
hasn't
pretty
really
big.
been hit too hard as of late, so I wouldn't be surprised.
there's a good prediction right there.
Yeah.
That's so. That would be like if there's 6 and 8 pounders, and that's an average of 7 pounds basically for 3 fish. That's 21 pounds of a limit. That's a massive limit
Yeah.
for 3 fish.
Did you guys watch Matt, or did you catch him doing that math in his head, buddy?
Yeah, that's the sales side of it.
I also reached for my calculator.
and I was actually able to do it.
Yeah, so I would say it's the local sand bass guys that have that stuff dialed, or it's somebody, figure something out on the island. And I'm not saying it has to be San Clemente; it could be Catalina, or somebody that gets on something local, which I don't think. Local's fickle enough that you just have to find the right little batch of fish, or one nice one here, one nice one there. That's the thing; it's 3 fish, so it's like you could kind of get creative on how you decide to, tackle this deal. So.
And just to make sure everyone knows, this is an artificial only tournament, right?
Correct. Yeah, artificial only. So.
I mean, it sounds like we were kind of mentioning it, but I don't think we ever mentioned that yet. So
Yes, these events are all artificial only. So yeah, no bait, no strips of squid. Nothing
Scents are
like that.
okay.
Scents are fine. Yeah.
Gulp's okay.
Gulp's okay. Any type of, purely artificial bait in that sense is fair game.
So the whole reason why we started this tournament series a year ago was to really kind of promote, and it's right on our website too, at coastalsocial.org, is to promote angler-driven conservation. And that's really behind, or promoting the saltwater bass, more specifically the calico bass. I know the calico bass kind of serves you know, we each, all four of us here, kind of have or hold that species in particular close to our heart because we love catching them. It's awesome, and really that's why we kind of created this tournament, is to promote all that too.
To bring awareness of catch and release
Mhm.
these amazing animals. Then, I mean, who here knows best the growth rate of a calico bass? Do you have any information?
I don't know the science behind it. I just know they're slow to grow. So if I'm not mistaken, a legal fish, and again, this is old data, but a legal fish used to be 12 inches, and I think it was like 3 to 5 years, if not mistaken, for it to reach that legal size, and that's a 12-inch fish of years past. A 14-inch fish now, I would assume to be even older. I know when you get fish over that, like say 21-inch mark, which is about a 5-pounder, which is typically a good one. Or bigger than that, that's a fish. And again, I'm no scientist by any means, but just from what I've heard, is a fish anywhere in the 25 to 35 year range. And
Wow.
so that's a fish that it's something that I think some of the purists have a lot of respect for a fish that gets that big one, and the two is that old. And it's I would say for Southern California goes, just like I was saying growing up, bass, barracuda, bonita, it's kind of one of the staples for our fishery, and it's I think calico bass fishing, especially in around the kelp lines or reefs, what have you. That's some of our first early experiences that kind of gets things going. And I've heard a lot of other proficient anglers. I was at the PCS show most recently. Dave Hansen, Tom, who you had recently on Tom Unser on your podcast, of just if you can catch a calico bass, figure them out, you can almost figure out to catch anything. A lot of those rules apply in some capacity, whether it's bait, artificial, what have you.
For sure. Todd was an excellent guest for sure.
Man, so much scientific knowledge dropped. It was amazing. If you want to listen to that podcast too, that was episode
15?
Yes, 15.
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
that was right. So great knowledge delivered on that one too. I expect that as more and more of these episodes come up, we're going to have great guests and great information, and I think that people should participate in this absolutely, to learn not just how to be better calico bass anglers or tournament anglers and try to get involved in more of those events, but also how to be a great CCA advocate. You're going to be able to meet some people there.
Yeah.
All four of us are going to be there.
Yeah, and that was really the goal with this, was just getting the community together when a time when all of us were in lockdown. It was like, okay, how can we? Things are just starting to loosen up where we could get out and do some things. So it's like, how else can we activate some anglers that at the time we couldn't do some of the bigger banquets, some of the bigger events, but an event like this tournament, it's like, what better way to give back than to get out, have a fun day of fishing, meet some new people, and whether you're an expert, versed tournament angler, or somebody who's just wanted to dabble or get into it, what better opportunity to do it for a $50 buy-in, no big money on the line, and all it is just a good day of fun. So.
Yeah, and on that note, we kind of we've said this before in the past, but this is actually your perfect opportunity, that perfect tournament to kind of get in as an intro to tournament fishing too.
Yeah. Well, so last year, that was my first kayak tournament I've ever fished.
Really?
Was the Coastal Social. And dude, I was nervous, like, just to be totally honest with you, because I've fished boat tournaments almost my entire life, but from a kayak, it's a little different situations. Like, make sure I had, and I'm a total tweaker when it comes to tackle and gear. I had to make sure I had my measuring board. I had to make sure I had my phone was charged. Made sure,
That's right.
I had it in a certain pocket, and I had my whole process. Again, you're gonna prepare the best you can, but once the first fish comes over, the excitement, adrenaline, all that kind of takes over. But it's kind of like, stay calm, get everything you need, take the right photo, make sure you get it uploaded, and then kind of go from there. So yeah, I mean, for me, my first event, I was like, I was totally stoked, and to be by myself, competing against other anglers. The interesting part too with that is that it's a live leaderboard, so to speak. So I saw when Jimmy was catching them, I was like, shoot.
Probably not a sandbagger.
No, probably didn't help my cause either. Well, I had start mission fish, and I saw that Jimmy's catching. I'm like, oh, dude, I need to stick one of these things, or I'm hosed. But
that's funny that Kevin mentioned that, because you do have the guy who will take all his photos and not post them till the last 10 minutes of the tournament, or you have the guy that as soon as he catches that fish, he posts that fish just so he can get in front of everybody, which is awesome.
Yeah, mentally mess with people.
Yeah, exactly.
If I have the choice, I would sandbag, because I can mess with people more that way. Because just think about, if you know the top guy and what he's leading with, then you can kind of just
yeah.
be like, okay, I'm all right with what I'm
Yeah.
here with, you know. So
I'll tell you for fishing the boat tournaments are SWA, SBS, Western Hunter News, what have you. If you have a good bag that day, the best thing you can do, because I've done it, we've done it, is let everybody weigh in,
come in quiet.
set the stage,
Mhm.
and then you come in and just train wreck the whole deal. So
The faces that day must be awesome to watch.
it's
yeah.
exactly wasn't really about money or trophies. It was just the agony of defeat.
Davey, that's your
okay.
strategy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you?
I'm a post as I go guy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a post as I go guy too, yeah, because I
Weigh 'em in, yeah.
don't want to forget later, or I don't
Yeah,
want to
lose the phone.
yeah, exactly.
Like someone we know. I have a question. Are we all three fishing the kayak division against each other?
Sounds like
I
it.
think we are. I
Oh,
mean,
boy.
right now you're talking about the who's who in the kayak world, right? Oh.
Nah.
Yeah, it'll be fun. At least us three, and then I'm sure there's going to be several others.
Yeah.
It's like we were talking about. Long Beach is a very kayak-friendly harbor in general. Great places to launch. If you're looking for the closest to the wall, if you happen to be someone that's going to fish the wall and actually fish Long Beach, that Cabrillo launch ramp
yeah.
is a great launch ramp. It's easy. It's like $1 an hour or something like that. They charge maybe $6 total for the day. Easy launch. You can stay right along the wall, kind of hug it all the way down, so you can somewhat avoid the wind unless it's coming straight up that wall, which it was last year. But there's lots of great launch ramps. Davies. I mean, there's a litany of Long Beach. Launch at Cherry Beach if you want to.
Yeah.
Launch right off the beach, drag your kayak across, and go fish the oil islands if you like as well.
Same launch ramps for boaters too, right? Essentially, they all have.
So on the boat side and the kayak side, yeah. So just like Davey mentioned, those are probably the closest kayak options. I'm going to be going out of King Harbor again. That's just I love fishing out of there. But for the boaters, really you can launch your boat out of anywhere. Essentially, you just need to be at the weigh-in at 22nd Street between 2 and 3. So I know some guys launch out of fishing out of Alameda. Some guys like fishing out of Huntington Harbor. If you wanted to launch out of Cabrillo, you can as well. Or say if you have your boat in a slip, dock somewhere, it's open for those folks as well.
Heck,
So-
and if you're an angler listening to this, like a kayak guy, and you're down in San Diego and you just want to support CCA, sign up. Go fish Mission Bay. Go fish San Diego. You can do it from the kayak on this one because you don't have to be in Long Beach.
That's yeah. Shoot, when you mentioned that, that's exactly
Yeah.
that was the big thing with the kayak division, was it being, a no boundaries event. Same with the boaters; they have no boundaries as far as where they can fish. Kayakers can fish. If you have your little honey hole down in La Jolla, or down in Oceanside, or down in Dana Point, or down in wherever that may be, you can legitimately fish the event from your home waters. Upload your fish, so long as it's all submitted within the time frame for the tournament, and those are all valid catches. You may not, be able to go to the event at the weigh-in 22nd Street Landing, or to pick up your goodie bag. Send us a message if that's the case, and we'll make sure to get it to you. But that really was, and again, that was one of the other things that we talked about when we first, concepted this event, was just making it open-ended for anybody who wanted to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why it's called Coastal Social.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, for sure. Guys, we are, by the time that this podcast hits and gets released, we will be, I believe, 10 days out from Coastal Social, the North Tournament. Hey, can you believe there is still plenty of space for anglers to get in on it?
How's that possible?
I don't know.
Not after this podcast.
Yeah,
We're
hopefully
going to be
not.
jammed up. How can someone sign up for it again?
So very easy, coastalsocial.org. There's a yellow button right on the homepage that says register. All you have to do is pick out which event. You can actually register for both at the same time if you really like. And click on whether you're on the kayak or the boater side. And if you're on the boat side, fill out your team and pay, and then you're all good to go. That's pretty much it. And then once, if you are not a CCA member, basically you just go through the same process, and we're just going to process your membership alongside it. So, super, super simple.
And this is also going to awareness for, not necessarily just the Calicos, but other conservation efforts that CCA is part of. We're always here to support growth in fishing and the future of fishing. And if you want to get kids involved, what better way to come and do this than to sign up your family and to come and join a day on the harbor, or go to the wall, or go to the Catalina, and really get the experience of what CCA is trying to provide, which is the future of sport fishing.
Exactly. It's an excuse to go fishing. We all have plenty of those.
And if you do bring the kids out, Long Beach is such a cool harbor that it's so large that there's a good chance you're fishing the inside of the wall and you're going to have a pot of porpoise go by you. You know, you're going to see some sea lions on, you know, if you go to the outside, you can see some sea lions on a couple of the different buoys. But if you have the kids, it's a really magical little place. And maybe you guys saw the video the one time when I had that unmanned submarine go by me. That was,
Really?
Yeah, that was pretty trippy. That was pretty cool. I was talking to Jim Hendricks about it, and he was mentioning that it was one of the schools does the unmanned sub project. And that thing popped up right next to me on the kayak and almost left the brown streak out there. It was interesting.
Oh my gosh. Well, guys, as we close out this special edition of the CCA California podcast, Matt, do you have anything else to provide or say, or any good tips?
No, I just hope to see some folks at the event. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, just come on out. Be a good time.
For sure, for sure. Davey, Mr. Weighmaster, I know you said that you can be bought for this tournament. So
I have three. I got a $10, I got a $20, and a $50 level. My bribes. Actually, it's going to be a blast. I'm really looking forward to it. It's good to be out fishing with everybody again. You know, kayak is a very solitary sport, but it's also very brotherhood-like.
Yeah.
If you're fishing with a bunch of kayak anglers, you can just sit around and talk anytime out of the water. But once you're on the water, everybody kind of splits up. Most of us have radios. We're all chit-chatting. Kayak fishing, other than Kevin, we just tell each other where we're fishing at and give each other tips. Unless there's a good white sea bass bite, then you won't see Kevin until afterwards. But it's we're really looking forward to it. I know we talked about the Long Beach event, but there's also the San Diego event. If you do head to that website, you can see the September event. That's going to be the exact same setup, just out of San Diego. I'm sure we'll do another podcast prior to that. But
for sure.
we're looking forward to it, man. It's going to be great. Coming out and support it. If you're just want to have some fun, it's not a serious tournament. We're going to have some fun. There's not big money involved. It's $50 that goes to CCA. It's just a good time to go out and have a little camaraderie with everybody.
Absolutely. Kevin, any last words? I know you weren't planning on fishing the tournament, but now you are available.
My schedule freed up, so
Perfect.
now I'm able to go do it. I'm actually fishing a tournament the day before, then I'm going to go fish this tournament, so I'm going to be a busy person. Then I got MREP that whole week, so I'm going to be a very tired person. You guys might have the edge up on me if you get a full night's sleep. You two, actually, you probably don't get full night's sleep all night. You're working all the time, so.
I don't sleep for tournaments. I'm too busy laying in my bed tweaking. So.
Oh, yeah? You're thinking about that one bite.
Yes.
Or the three bites that you need.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, if I don't see you out there, then I'll see you at the way, the time that we get to come back together at 22nd Street Landing.
Yeah, I'll be there.
So, to the best man, may they win.
Yeah.
Best CCA member.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
And on that note as well, if you don't measure a fish, or if you're on the kayak side or whatnot, come by anyway. We have plenty of goodie bags for you. Every angler who registers is going to get a goodie bag full of amazing products, amazing stuff by all of our sponsors, and I'm looking forward to it.
You can pick up your Coastal Social t-shirt there as well.
Yeah, for sure. We have Coastal Social t-shirts available online. All that money goes to CCA as well. Big thanks to AFTCO for providing those last year and this year. So really looking forward to it, guys.
And of course, swing by 22nd Street Landing. Good food over there as well.
Yeah,
There's
for
an
sure.
early dinner, late lunch.
Absolutely. Kevin, anything else to add, man?
Just another great episode. This time it was a lot of tournament details, and certainly we'll have to have Matt and Davey back on, that they don't have to go so deep into all the tournament details, but it's really important to know that we're trying to be really proactive on trying to provide great events for all sorts of angler levels. It doesn't matter if you're fishing the tournament hardcore, if you're going out there with your family like we said. It's all about just supporting CCA and supporting the future of fisheries. It's really just what this podcast is about too, and CCA. Make sure you're doing everything you can to try to be a great member of CCA, whether you're not one yet, which you should be. Which you can go and sign up for CCA membership at ccacalifornia.org, and make sure that you're contributing at any level you can, an annual membership, a lifetime membership like all of us in here. Make sure you're trying to go out there and be a great advocate for the future of our sport, because we want to make sure our kids, your kids, they're all fishing in the future with a better fishery than we're having now.
Absolutely, well said, my friend. And Matt, real quick, Coastal Social does have social media platforms, correct?
Correct, yeah. As far as platforms go, on Instagram is probably the best place. That's just look up Coastal Social. Should pop up, and you'll see some content there, and hopefully out some updates leading up to the event.
Yep, and all the latest in there. I think we're probably going to try and go live from that, or on that account too, with a couple seminars and all that stuff beforehand, but I'm looking forward to it for sure. Absolutely. Well, Kevin, great episode once again. And thank you so much for joining us on this special edition of the CCA California podcast, this bonus episode. We sure hope that you have enjoyed it. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review and follow us on Instagram at CCA California. Leave us a 5-star review. Subscribe to the podcast. All kinds of good stuff. All kinds of great content. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you guys next week. Take care, everyone.